In today's World Cup 2023 match, it's New Zealand versus Netherlands. Right now it's happening at the Rajiv Gandhi International Stadium in Hyderabad. Netherlands won the toss, elected to field. New Zealand took the batting stance and managed a score total of 185. That was a little while ago. Of course, with the loss of 3 wickets in 32 overs, of course. Currently, Tom Latham and Santner are holding the crease. Ravindra showcased his skill but eventually got caught by Roel van der Merwe, courtesy of a brilliant catch by Scott Edwards. This marks Merve's second wicket of the day with his earlier dismissal of Devin Conway, who managed to score 32 runs. Now, let's talk about Will Young, who put on quite a show, scoring an impressive 70 runs. Unfortunately, his innings came to an end when he was caught by Paul van der Merwe, thanks to a safe pair of hands from Bas de Leede. Young's performance also includes his 6th century around this thing. He hit 7 fours, 2 sixes against some stats. We'll let go of the stats. Joining me are two of the important guests right now. We will discuss not only on New Zealand and the Netherlands match, but let's take a step back and reflect on India's glory last night. Yes, we're talking about Virat Kohli, and for the very first time we've managed to completely demystify, deconstruct his inning. And what you see on the big board right now on your screens is a wagon wheel of KL Rahul, and we will also talk about Virat Kohli's thing. I have an international cricketer who joins me from Bulawayo in Zimbabwe, who's played alongside Virat Kohli, also against him, and now we're talking about some stats here. Also joining me is a podcaster from Delhi, a cricket journalist, Dev Tyagi. Chris, I want you to deconstruct. You were telling us about the player, the Virat Kohli's chase, and the way he created the kind of winning innings despite the pressure that he had. Your views, I throw it open to you.
From what I've always seen with this man, his mentality when it comes to, he's got a big mentality, whether you're chasing 400 or you're chasing 200. Yesterday, he just realized that it wasn't one of those days where you can just come in and start swinging from ball one. You see how tight he was with his defense, how tight he was with his attack. So he made those two things work in favor of India, and you know, it was so good also seeing the man that he was batting with, who's got a calm head as usual. I always talk about Rahul, Rahul, on how people don't say a lot about him, but the way when he joined him, you could see that as forces they wanted to construct something good. But going back to Kohli, absolutely amazing how he constructed his inning, how calm and how cool he was. You could see that even if he was carrying a billion people on his shoulders, he didn't show that at the same time. So for me, that was an inning that we can always talk about for a long time.
Absolutely, that is an inning we talk about for a long time. I'll let my PCR do some little correction at the technicality. We can only hear your voice. Now I think the video is there, yes. Right, what about KL Rahul's innings? He was extraordinary, coming back from an injury. What do you think of that? Your views?
Mr. Calm, cool and collected. A lot of people always criticize the man, but I think he is an amazing cricketer. When he comes in, he realized the situation at the same time, that it wasn't one of those times where you just have to start hitting from ball one, but how calm he was. And it was good to see those two batting together and taking the team from that situation and taking it all the way. And it was fitting to see him being the one that scored the winning runs. And for me, I've always rated the man. He makes things look so simple whenever he is in form, and coming from an injury, and I know a lot of people would have criticized his selection and all, but coming from an injury and doing what he did yesterday, I still rate the guy and say he's still one of the best for India.
Well, absolutely, he's still one of the best for India at the top fives. He can field, he can do the wicket keeping, he can bat at the top, he can go down, shuffle his thing. That's what the team needs. But right, before we go on further, I'd like to seek Dev Tyagi, my colleague sitting in the studio right now, joined us talking about yesterday's match. Dev, just tell us about the way things unfolded. Did you see the kind of change in the approach, considering we were down by 3 wickets at certainly no loss. I mean, at 5 or 6. Your views?
Yeah, it was kind of a panicky start from the Indian perspective, and perhaps not many of us die-hard Indian cricket supporters would have wanted Virat Kohli playing so early into the innings as he was. Not the greatest start for Mr. Rohit Sharma, our glorious captain for this campaign. I've always said that, he's just at the finishing touches of closing in on 1,000 ODI World Cup runs, which is a massive achievement. But I think that milestone can wait for one match longer. However, the biggest takeaway personally for me as an observer and an ardent fan of the game is the composure, and Mr. Mofofu also said rightly, shown by KL Rahul, because he was the vanguard of the Indian innings. He was guarding the hopes of India, especially at that panicky moment where it seemed that everything was over when Virat Kohli top edged it, perhaps committing himself to the shot a bit too early. But then I'm not a technical guru. I don't know how many tens of hundreds of thousands of Indian hearts would have sunk at that point in time, but Rahul was there. And yesterday, for me, I would say that Rahul was giving the confidence to Virat Kohli, who was slightly shaky, but in the end making up with it with a fantastic 85.
Well, in the press conference, before we call in Chris to talk about the bowling length, which is very important. It's a very technical side that we got to make our fans understand what that means, where the bowling is. But before Chris comes on, looks at the bowling chart, I'd like to come to you. When KL Rahul walks in, Virat Kohli tells him to bat like a test match and rotate strike in the same manner. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think that was evident in the way they attacked Adam Zampa in his first over, just hoping for those soft spots to go through, exploring the boundaries on the vacant gaps, which weren't that many because the Australians really fortified the field like the Germans did during the Second World War. They are so difficult to go through. But it was the composure of Rahul which played the perfect foil for the aggressive Virat Kohli and a little jittery Virat Kohli. But as I said, ultimately this fire and ice combination really took India home, and that was superb to watch.
Absolutely. Chris, if you can hear us, what is the kind of length? Chris, are you connected?
Say that again.
I'm saying, what is the length ball that the Indians were bowling as compared to the Aussies? Because you must realize the Aussies walked in with a spinner. Let's talk of the spinner first, then we'll talk about the other pacers and the length ball. The spinner, Zampa, who's got Virat Kohli out 5 times out of the 11 meetings. And what do you think of it actually?
For me, when I look at these two sides, I felt like India, when it comes to their bowling, they were much, I'm not saying that Australia were not prepared, but I felt like the Indian bowling was, it was much prepared more than Australia did. Yes, Australia got those 3 early wickets, yes, when those were pace bowlers, but when you come to the issue of spinners, I still love the way India put their bowling lineup. I talk about Ashwin all the time. Not a lot of people would have thought he was going to be in this World Cup, and the way he came in, the pace that he varies, and we're talking about Zampa on the other side. Yes, he's a leg spinner, but when you look at how Ash at the same time as an off spinner, the length that he doesn't give you those easy drives, he doesn't give you that easy way of going back and pulling it. Then I felt like on the other side, when India actually played Zampa, when they go back to pulling and everything, it was 100% on how they were committing on that. And we go back to the issue also of having Kuldeep Yadav. Yes, he can go for runs, but one thing I love about Kuldeep at the same that he will give you wickets, and he will give you big wickets, those crucial wickets that you need. So at the same time, I felt Indian spinners, they had a plan on how they were going to give it to Australia, and at the end of the day that worked out well. And when you've got someone like Jadoo bowling coming on also as a spinner for India, he's going to give you that depth when it comes to batting. So I still felt like Indian side had more plans on how they were gonna counter attack Australia at the same time. So yeah, it was those spinners. I still think they are the ones to win the World Cup for India. And I know a lot of people right now will be saying you can't be saying that India is going to win the World Cup, but they will be the team to beat, to tell the truth.
Absolutely, they will be the team to beat. At the same time, we've got breaking news right now. New Zealand has scored 322 runs in the stipulated 50 overs for the loss of 7 wickets. Again, 322 runs against the Netherlands. This match is happening in Hyderabad. Again, a very close match. We must realize that Netherlands has given Pakistan a tough time at the opening match at the same stadium. However, things got out of the hand when they lost quick wickets in the middle overs, and that's where the collapse happened. Now, we're going to shift our focus back to the match that is currently happening. Dave, I'd like to get you in very quickly here. 322. Do you think it's a great total considering the way these New Zealand guys started and started hitting the ball out of the park, and suddenly there was a dip? You want to take our fans through it?
I reckon they shouldn't be really complaining, because there was a particular phase, 13-14 over phase in the middle overs, where the Dutch bowlers really pulled things back after having been pounded for 1 run too many by the top order batters of New Zealand. Of course, we have to remember that the great form Will Young was in today, having been dismissed for a knot in his World Cup campaign opener against Pakistan today, making 70 useful contributions down the order. And one of the unsung heroes in New Zealand cricket, I've always maintained, is Mitchell Santner. He played a blinder, 36 unbeaten runs of 17 deliveries, including 2 sixes and 3 boundaries. That was amazing. And also Matt Henry, 6, and of course Bas de Leede bowling the final over and perhaps going for too many runs would put him in a little bit of a difficult situation. But I think there's one insight which we must address a bit more, and it's about the man who, according to me, is the Jean-Claude Van Damme of the Dutch team, which is Van der Merwe. You know, removed all the top order, the dominant top order, including the wickets of Devon Conway and Rachin Ravindra. Ravindra again making a run ball 51, proving that he's so useful up the order.
Absolutely. This is a great, we must spare a thought for Van der Merwe.
Yeah.
The man himself.
Ageless cricketer.
Absolutely. He's one of the oldest cricketers in this World Cup squad, and when we met him at Bangalore, he looked fit, he loved the city. Maybe he's got that old RCB connection with him, but nevertheless, he is a man who bowls very tight. Does he remind you of Jayasuriya, Dave? And then I'll get Christopher if he's online and he can hear us.
In terms of utility and being an evergreen cricketer, absolutely. But the kind of things that he can pull off his own bowling, an action-packed cricketer, Van Damme for me, the Van Damme of cricket.
Absolutely, he's the Van Damme of cricket. Let's take a step back and also look at the batting lineup of New Zealand. Did they fare really well in the first power play? And then if Chris is there, I'm going to shoot the next question off to him about the bowling part that he's seen till in this World Cup in the first 6 matches. First, over to you, Dave.
Right. So I think New Zealand began quite comfortably. They had 50 plus run stand, and that is when Van der Merwe got into the act and he got the dangerous man Devon Conway out of the picture. But Will Young was there. He had to step up. He understood that, you know, this is the time where the middle order really needs to capitalize and come up with the big runs. Especially remember that this is the second game on the trot where the amazing captain Kane Williamson hasn't been there. And some nice work done to support the team and keep the run flow going by Tom Latham, who we must remember and mustn't underestimate, because the previous 3-game series he played against the same opponent, he pounded them for 171 runs. So it was a great batting performance.
Absolutely, it was a great batting performance. Christopher, I'd like to get Christopher back into the discussion. Christopher, are you happy the way the bowling has been? Because one fine day you see bowlers getting hit at 430 odd runs, and then suddenly you have a day where you can't even score 200 runs. You know, your views on that?
Like I've always told you, Sunil, it is a bit of a white ball cricket is a bit of one of those formats where as a bowler you always under pressure. So it was good to see that after a day of 400 on that wicket, the South African game where even the other team, Sri Lanka, scoring more than 300 runs, and seeing yesterday how it came back, you know, for India to be chasing 200, and yes, even for today seeing 322. Yes, it is a lot of runs, but you know, after 400, I think it's much better. I think bowlers have done quite well, but you take it and say batters have been doing quite very well, you know, more than the side of batting, and also wickets are not that great and friendly for bowlers at the same time. So I still, you know, put my props to the bowlers. I think they've tried their best.
Chris, I'd like to respectfully interject here and ask you, say pitches are not kind towards bowler. Would you still want to maintain, considering what happened last night when the Indians bowled the Aussies out at 190?
You know, I'm sure what I will say there, Sunil, is that yes, you will find there are a few wickets that will misbehave a lot, but I would say 90% is still not as favorable as you would want as a bowler.
Right.
And at the same time, I still give big ups to the bowlers. I think considering these wickets on how they are, I think bowlers have come in and they've done their best at the same time.
Absolutely. Let's take a step back and also look at the modern day cricket, the growth of modern day cricket. You have a team like Sri Lanka who actually practices what they start for. They were actually 40 in the 41 overs. They were 303 as compared to South Africa, who was actually at 303. So the scores were equal. The only problem was the wickets were down. But the point that we are making here is, despite losing consistent wickets, the strike rate did not change. Do you think this is the birth of the modern day white ball ODI cricket?
When you look at this, I'm sure very soon 350 runs will not be safe a lot. You will definitely not be safe. I was watching just a bit of a Match Cup yesterday in Australia, where the other team made 430 odd or something like that, and there's a guy who broke the record of AB de Villiers, and still he was on the losing side, and that team managed to make about 398 or something like that. So when you look at it, then for me, I think white ball cricket is just going to another level that we don't know, but very soon I'm sure 350 will not be enough to defend.
Absolutely, 350 runs. We're in the era where 5 times South Africa has already crossed 400 barrier, and once when Aussies actually chased it down. I'd like to get in Dev here. Dev, do you think there is a scope for spinners like yesterday we saw? It would bring smile on spinners that we were to see the top 3 spinners in the world, considering the way Indian spinners bowled yesterday. Your views?
Absolutely, sir. And thank you for asking this pertinent question. I think the spinners have really fought back. Not that they were ever out of contention, but especially in the last decade or so, with more and more tracks offering assistance for bowlers, and now cricket actually once again adhering to the philosophy of making the contest rather, a level playing field. There is so much in it for the spinners today than there was at a time where cricket had just suddenly become only wham bam version of cricket. Not that the mushrooming T20 leagues around the world would say a word, would want to hear a word against it. But there is so much in it. This is the best time to be a spinner right now.
Absolutely, best time. Let's ask a fast bowler. Is it a best time to be a spinner? But at the same time, this is the last question. Chris, I'd like to have your thoughts on, is 322 enough for New Zealand? Can they defend it? Do you think there is a spring of surprise coming up from the Flying Dutch team? Chris.
As I said, it's Sunil, this World Cup, you'll see quite a few shocks that will happen, and I hope it's not today, but I'm definitely sure that there is something around the corner that is about to happen, and it will be good to see also if the Dutch can, do what they did to England a few years ago, and that was in India, so that could be another story to tell.
Let me rub little salt on your wood. They actually knocked Zimbabwe out for the pre.
Definitely, and I'll still be. I always tell you I'm a supporter of. I can't say Minos, but those underrated teams. So I'll definitely be rooting for Netherlands right now. And like you said, I'm waiting maybe to see the few openers from Netherlands on how they get on with the game. And if they do win, I can bet you that Van der Merwe will be the one with the final knock off winning the runs.
Absolutely. Well, that's all we had time for. Thank you, Christopher, for joining in this lovely debate straight from Bulawayo. Thank you, Dev.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.